So what is typically the distance between the conceptual and the operational definition in your discipline? So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by distance? So what I mean by that is you can think about, different types of constructs, right? You can think about length. And you could say, okay, length is conceptually defined as the shortest distance between 2 points. And then how do you measure it? You take a ruler and you place it on something, you put it on the other point and you read it off. Fair enough. And this again is an example, speaking of what has come before, this is an example from a Nunnally's textbook. Now, it's very clear to me, right? The length, how you define it, conceptually, how you measure it. Makes sense. I mean, there's a one-on-one correspondence. But wait, let's keep increasing the length. What's the distance between where you are right now and your closest marketplace? That gets a bit more complicated in how you're going to translate that. But let's just say, you know what, you're going to have a rolling tape and you're going to drive an automobile, and then the tape keeps on extending and you're going to figure out the distance, right? Or you'll use Google Maps, that's fine. What about even larger distances? And what about astronomical distances that are estimated, right? So even with length, which seems so self-evident, it kind of gets a little bit more complicated. It gets a bit more distant in terms of the conceptual and the operational, all right? And so, in fact, there is one picture you will keep on seeing, and I will show that to you in a moment, which is nothing but a circle and a rectangle and the distance between. All right, so that's the way with length, and then you go to weight. And what's the conceptual definition of weight? Well, how heavy something is, and how do you measure weight? You don't take a ruler and put it to it. You say, well, here are some metrics. Here are some previously calibrated weights. And I'm going to take something and weigh it, and I'm going to put the weight on the other side. And I'm going to assume that there is a gravitational pull that is similar because of what I already know. When we go from short distances to weight, we are already becoming indirect in our measurement. So I would argue that distance is a little bit more between the conceptual and the operational, right? And then you tell me temperature. What is temperature? Well, how hot something is. I've forgotten my physics, so you can talk about it in physics as well in terms and so on. And then with temperature, you're telling me now that there is this thing called mercury, and as the temperature goes up, it'll expand, and I read off that and I indirectly infer temperature, right? And then look at what you are talking about. I've got to do this to you. I'm sorry about doing this, but I have to go back and look at what you are talking about. Gosh, this is not length, this is not weight, this is not temperature, this is purchase intention, satisfaction and trust and justice, internationalization, right? And that's what you're trying to measure. And you can see what the distance is like as well, right? And so that is really our challenge. And the fact that it's challenging makes it more exciting as well, which leads me to ask you this question. What is a construct with high distance that is of interest to you between the conceptual and the operational? And by the way, this is the picture you'll keep on seeing. If you were in a course that I was teaching, I'll keep on drawing the same thing on the board right through the course. And I just pre-drew it because I wanted to manipulate it as needed. And then I'm going to ask you for a construct of high distance of interest to you.